Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and we got a shorter week featuring a lot of country, shame more of it's not better, and it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. Okay, so some of this feels like it was on me. I was hoping for a slowdown, and that's largely what we got, alongside a bit of Coachella spillover impact, but it didn't exactly lead to quality, certainly not when it came to our biggest new arrival. But then again, when I'm looking at what actually broke through this week, I don't have a ton of faith that any of it's going to stick around, so maybe more will be revealed down the line, or a bunch of it's going to last and then get swept away. Well, we'll have to see, but anyway, when we get to our top 10, to the surprise of nobody, Luther by Kendrick Lamar and SZA held that spot at number 1. It wasn't particularly close, with the video boosting streaming and their dominance on the radio only continuing. Again, I don't really see the challenger, and it's kind of stunning how well this is held on. And I say that predominantly because Die With a Smile by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars went right back up to number 2 with renewed radio traction on its own, stable streaming, and better sales. And that was enough to knock back Nokia by Drake down to number 3, where I think it just missed its shot for the top. Streaming is still strong, it's got great sales, yes, folks are buying this, but it's getting crushed on the radio margins, and the growth just isn't fast enough, provided it happens at all. And yet it's still holding over for now Pink Pony Club by Chappell Roan up at number 4, which is inching its way up the radio despite the streaming wavering, but truth be told, it's probably going to get eclipsed by Ordinary by Alex Warren, which is up to number 5 on better streaming, better sales, and picking up a lot of radio momentum, and fast. I told y'all they would get on board with this. It's gonna stick around a while. Funnily enough, this leaves a bar song, Tipsy by Shabuzi, a bit stranded at number 6. It's declining across the board, but a good week on streaming and robust margins, ensuring that it's gonna take its time. And then we actually saw a gain for Lose Control by Teddy Swims at number 7, breaking records for this song in the top 10 with more streaming pickups despite radio's decline. Now granted, part of this is also probably due to the losses off the debut for All the Way by Big X the Plug featuring Bailey Zimmerman at number 8, which did fall back, but nowhere near as much as I was expecting, with the streaming and sales holding up pretty damn well in order to compensate for the radio having no real clue what to do with it, which was kind of as expected, I hate to say it. And we'll end off the top 10 with 2 genuinely awful songs. Beautiful Things by Benson Boone rising to number 9 because it had a stable radio week, and streaming gains were, I'll just blame Coachella, but at least it got over I'm the Problem by Morgan Wallen down to number 10, which the radio loves even as streaming is thankfully slowing down. Again, as soon as the album bomb hits, it might go straight to the top. Oh joy, we're not getting rid of Morgan Wallen that easily. But that naturally takes us to our losers and dropouts. Insert hackneyed joke about the audience of that last Morgan Wallen song that Farce the Music quite frankly does better. And in the latter group, the only 2 worth caring about are Good Luck Babe by Chappell Roan, handily clinching her year-end list spot for 2025 on an extremely respectable run, and Heart of a Woman by Summer Walker, likely just falling short. And we got a couple expected losers here too, which can be split between the debuts last week and the continuing drop-offs. Let's handle the latter group first, and start off with The Giver by Chappell Roan, which just is not catching fire at 51, followed by Evil Jordan by Playboi Carti at 87, and Dandelion by Ariana Grande at 100. As for the new debuts, I can't say I'm not surprised that Azizam by Ed Sheeran fell to 39, and Caramel by Sleep Token fell to 68, or even that End of the World by Miley Cyrus hit 69, but it is telling that big singles from marquee acts of the 2010s are not seeing traction this decade, and that's expected for an artist's career trajectory. It's just a little jarring to see in real time. I've covered these artists a lot on this show. So this is where things might get a little more interesting in our returns and gains, right? Well, not quite. In the former group, we got Fortnite by Taylor Swift featuring Post Malone back at 33. Apparently this is due to Record Store Day, and now I'm thoroughly annoyed that Taylor Swift didn't push any other singles from the Tortured Poets department. And Like Jenny by Jenny clawing back to 96. But the gains are intriguing, so let's start off with some of that Coachella impact, most notably for Lady Gaga with Abracadabra at 26, and Sorry I'm Here for Someone Else by Benson Boone at 36. I can't quite say Good News by Shabuzi is getting the same boost, but if anything, the story is better there because it's got tangible streaming and decent radio. That's great to see. I want him to get another hit. And on a continued good note, I like that Big X the Plug is getting traction for the largest up to 82. About Time is starting to move. It's a great song. Little less so for Holy Smokes by Bailey Zimmerman at 67, but hey, they can't all be winners. And that was basically my mantra for, well, a lot of the country gains this week, as I'm not really of a fan of Fix What You Didn't Break by Nate Smith at 72, or Friends Like That by John Morgan featuring Jason Aldean at 57, but at least Weren't for the Win by Ella Langley's holding up steady at 52. Finally, with continuing promising groundswell, and I can't believe I'm saying this, let alone being somewhat excited for it, Somber saw multiple gains this week, with Back to Friends continuing up to 56 and Undressed at 84. If this keeps up, I'd call it a note of good news for a pretty rough Hot 100 this year. Fingers crossed it actually works for a new and up-and-coming act. I'm curious. But we now have a pretty short list of new arrivals. Unfortunately, we are starting off with number 98, Whiskey Drink by Jason Aldean.
I poured straight and strong, make a memory gone before you let me leave. Oh, come on, whiskey drink.
Only I would look at a song with this title and think in the back of my mind, this motherfucker better not be interpolating Chumbawamba's tub thumping. Now, that's not what this is by any measure. That might actually make it interesting. It's more about Jason Aldean talking to the whiskey he's drinking in order to get smashed and forget about some girl. His writer's apparently stealing the cliff notes from Morgan Wallen with all those runny guitar timbres and the blend of drum machines and live percussion. And you know what? Aside from saying whiskey drink, which just kind of sounds a little stupid, this is impressively generic, with the same sort of grayscale smeared over production that we normally get from Jason Aldean, and him remaining one of the most unengaging singers in mainstream Nashville country, which is all the more apparent as he's trying to belt on this track and there's no emotional resonance whatsoever. The only reason this is charting as a late album single from November 2023 is Aldean's lingering Nashville presence behind BBR. It might stick around, but you're gonna forget this in record time. Number 97, Not at This Party by Dasha.
My life, that I'm having a good night out here on the dance floor, just like everybody, but nobody here knows just how bad you got me. I'm not at this party.
So I was kinder to Austin by Dasha than a few of my peers. Yeah, it was a transparent swerve into pop country, but it was decent enough for it. If last year's hits weren't so strong, it could have had a credible shot for honorable mention, maybe? And honestly, I think this is better. It's definitely pulling from the twangier side of early 2010s indie folk with the reverb guitars, the shouts, the deeper kick drum, and that fast pick rollick, but the fiddle and the mandolin roots this in enough country in order to fit the frustrated angst of the song, where she got dumped and she's trying to get over it on the dance floor at this bar, largely failing because, well, her mind is not at the bar, very much back with this guy. What it reminds me of a lot is Life at the Party by Jake Owen, an old bro country deep cut from 2013 I dearly love about trying to enjoy that party and hold back how much the heartbreak really hurts, as both understand if you keep the song this upbeat sing-along, it'll kinda help all the more. Truth be told, I don't know what's gonna happen with Dasha, especially as her album last year really didn't move beyond Austin, but she's working with Nashville veterans, and if this sticks around, you know, I think we'd be better for it. Great little track, worth hearing. Number 94, Hands of Time by Eric Church.
So easy when you listen loud guitars and words that rhyme. On the hands of time.
I'm gonna say it, one of my most hotly anticipated albums of 2025 is the new project from Eric Church, even if my expectations are extremely cautious. For me, considering his career holistically, he's gonna catch lightning in a bottle in odd places, where after the grand experiment with The Outsiders, he makes the more introspective pivot with Mr. Misunderstood a year later, and that would be the best album of his career, if not for And, the secret EP between his double albums Heart and Soul 4 years ago that never got a properly promoted release. It kind of like snuck out on streaming in 2022. So now with this as the lead single, Oh, look, I want to like this. I really do. Eric Church is knee-deep in music references from Bob Seger to Meatloaf, from Bob Marley to AC/DC, where the theme of the track is how the art of the past will keep you kind of young and in that place, or at least puts up one hell of a fight against the hands of time. And I really like the soul and gospel elements that Eric Church continues to weave into his music, especially on the final hook with those choirs that sound great, after the bridge with that ticking clock with the mandolin flourishes. But my god, can we please get Jay Joyce away from Eric Church already? Get him a different producer, because this country rocker sure as hell doesn't need a producer who is even more uneven than he is. I hated how Eric Church's vocal mastering is rarely as good as it should be. He sounds more buried here than I would like. He could command a mix like this. And well, Jay Joyce lets the guitars and shuffling groove have some good muscle alongside the organ. The horns sound so synthetic and cheap. They don't evoke any rootsy fervor at all. It's so damn frustrating because this should be exactly the sort of track Eric Church could knock out of the park, but the production makes it feel more gimmicky than it should be in its callbacks to the past. God, please don't let that be a sign for the album. I want to like this. Number 90, Henry Come On by Lana Del Rey.
I've been fighting, I've been striving for yesterday. I heard God say you were born to be the one to hold the hand of the man who flies too close to the sun.
This might just be a week where nearly everything is country or country related, and funnily enough, I'm not as surprised by this being here as you might expect. Lana Del Rey's been signaling she's been looking to make a country pivot for a while now, which might be a loaded idea for her, because for me it sets up her vintage stylings alongside all the rest of the women who can do it just as well, if not better, in the scene. But I've also been saying that for over 10 years now, and Lana Del Rey is working with Luke Laird, who generally knows what he's doing behind the boards, so the song, it's fine, I guess. It's a little uncanny after years of working with Jack Antonoff to hear Lana Del Rey having a more organically saturated mix, with the richer strings alongside the guitars and even the touches of piano, although the reverb saturation is still very much here around her vocals. And the arc of the song is fine, I guess. It's basically the other side of a song like I Can Still Make Cheyenne by George Strait, where she's sick of being left behind by the country guy who keeps hitting the road and then treats her and the relationship cavalierly, but then we get the hook where she dejectedly accepts being dangerous here because she was born to be the woman who holds the hand of the man who flies too close to the sun. And I could reiterate everything I've said about the framing of this as tragic and glamorous, but also her quiet conservatism has stopped surprising me years ago, and occasionally made for some kind of charged and compelling art. It even kind of makes sense in a more of a country framing. And while the country flavor's new for her, what's not is her baby voice cooing that I've never liked on the hook. It sounds more full and supported this time around. I'm just not a fan of her in that register. I guess what catches me off guard is how relatively seamlessly she keeps both her own sound and fits within this style, but it's also a cliche she's hit many times before. It doesn't feel that unique or interesting. Not bad, but I'm not gonna seek it out. And finally, number 81, Blue Strips by Jessie Murph.
Had to get back at you, I had to get back at you, yeah. Got a new man, got a new damn mansion in Malibu. I had to get back at you, I had to get back at you.
One of the harshest things I've said about a musical act, I said about Jessie Murph. That if she has fans, they're not solely fans of her. I can't imagine the person for whom she is your favorite artist. She's one of the worst singers in pop and country who brings down everyone around her, including people who should absolutely know better. But hey, Columbia still wants to give her attention, push her on streaming and the radio. Someone audit that department in A&R. That's money better spent anywhere else. So now we have this, and oh wow, this is awful. Probably the worst possible decision is to start with her auto-tuned, compressed, and multi-track nasal vocals at the very front of the mix, braying, "I ain't mad." He sounds like a boiled goose. And that's before we get the piano-backed minimalism, before we get some of this cheap-sounding trap percussion and whirring from late 2018. And it creates this glob of dated, country-fried pop trap where she can't sell anything close to emotion. At least BB Rexa sounded like she cared. And then there's the content. content, where across Jessie Murph's career, it's rare to find so much obnoxious pettiness that barely even tries to make sense, let alone have any creativity, which is why the verses sound so painfully abbreviated on this rather short song. It's a kiss off to an ex where she is now rich, she bought a mansion in Malibu, she's probably renting, let's keep it real here, and then she goes to the strip club to throw money at said ex's new girl while she goes home to her new man. I mean, put aside the implied sex negativity of trying to dunk on a guy for dating a stripper even if he is your ex, you're now paying that stripper. And the second verse is all about these veiled threats about exposing him, where she's not even getting mad, she's getting even. Please don't put it in the papers that she got mad. And there's just no teeth to any of it. She sounds like she's bluffing. If she is actually mad, why even bother with attempted blackmail you can't back up? And if you're actually not mad, why do any of this and come across as shallow and petty and vacant as possible? I'm legit shocked that Becken produced this garbage. His biggest credits have been with Kendrick Lamar on Mr. Morale and Damn, the 88 Rising crew, most recently Hosier. I mean, I hope the paycheck is good because you didn't have to do this either. What's worse is that there is a part of the hook that's catchy in the worst way possible. It's gonna annoy itself into sticking in your head, so I got the distressing feeling that when this gets shipped to radio, it might just catch on. It shouldn't, because it sucks. Skip it. And yeah, short week with a lot of country adjacent stuff, but Jessie Murph is running away with the worst for Blue Strips. It's not even close. Best of the week. Yeah, I'm a bit surprised that Dasha got it for Not at This Party, but I think it's deserved. Very good song. More of her brand of pop country, please. Next week, with more Coachella, it might be interesting what gets traction amidst an otherwise slow release week. Stay tuned for that. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum.